Hello, this is Lincoln Easley here, and this is FTT 104, and we're going to be detail stripping a 1894 lever action rifle. So this is a limited edition rifle. It's very awesome, a lot of fun to shoot. I have other rifles, and this is one of my favorites. So first things first, we're going to check and make sure the firearm is not loaded. So as you can tell, the firearm is not loaded, and it is ready to go. It's ready for detail stripping. So we're going to leave it just like this on the table, and we're going to get going, and we're going to start field stripping this rifle. But before we do, I'm going to go over the tools that we might be using for this whole job. We have our screwdrivers for the job we're going to be doing. These are gunsmith screwdrivers. There's our block. I have my grabbers. I have a punch set that I'm using. I have WD-40, lubrication, oils. I have a magnetic plate for all the screws and all the small parts. You do not want to lose these parts, because if you lose these parts, you're not going to be able to reassemble this rifle very well, and you're going to have to wait months to get parts to come in if you can find them. I have my punch hammers that I'm going to be using, and then I also have my Allen wrench sets I'm using. These are going to be the main tools that you're going to be using for most jobs on firearms. So I'm going to go ahead and get to work, and we're going to start getting this going. And last but not least, we also have picks. Sometimes you need picks. So we're going to go ahead and get to work. We're going to start field stripping this whole rifle. Then we're going to go into a detail strip right after we field strip it. And then that way we can go through all the parts, and we're going to probably clean them up while we're here, re-lubricate, and then we're going to put it back together. Thank you so much, and let's have some fun here. All right, now we're going to be getting ready to detail strip this rifle. So first things first, we're going to be getting our tools that we need. Right now we need a screwdriver. So if we look around here, you're going to have to remove this screw right here. I'll put that in. Just to reconfirm, it is unloaded. All right. So now we're going to go through, we're going to start extracting this screw right here. It's also very important to make sure you use the right screws for the job you're doing. If the screwdriver is too big, don't use it. If it's too small, don't use it. You want it to fit snug. I'm going to be doing a basic detail strip, so I'm not going to be taking every little tiny piece off. I'm just doing the basic detail strip on the rifle, just getting the majority of the pieces off. So now we're going to go through and we're going to pull the stock off. So now the stock is completely taken off. And now the next part is we got to get this screw out of the rifle. So you got to be very careful, because this is a, so if you notice it controls the spring. That's your hammer spring that controls everything right there for when you go to shoot your firearm. So we're going to go ahead and get to work on that. All right, to get this spring out, and you could also get lighter springs in there for different tension. What I'm going to have to do is we're going to have to get a grabber or a punch pen, and I'm going to have to go through it. I'm going to have to slowly pry it up while pulling this back. So to do this, you got to pull that back. You see how it pulls back a little bit? You got to pry that up. Got to make sure it doesn't pop. Because if it pops, you lose your spring. There we go. We got that piece out. So there's that piece that we had to get out. And there's the spring we had to get. I'm going to pull this piece out. So this should come out. Nope, it doesn't come out yet. That's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this around. And now we're going to pull the block out. So we got to go through, extract that out just a little bit. And now we're going to go through and take the trigger spring off, or take the lever off. So we find a screwdriver for that lever. There we go. It's very important to take your time. Do not rush yourself. You rush yourself, you go too fast, you could damage your products, you could damage your rifle, you could damage screws, then you have to go through and repair the screws and do a repair kit. And then that's not always fun. That could be an all-day ordeal just to repair one screw. Okay, so we get the lever out. We go through, pull the block out. So there's the block that has the extractor, and it also has a firing pin inside. Now we got to get the, well, we got the firing pin in the block, then we have the extractor right here, so we got to pull this out. So I like to use these to get these out. I like to be very easy. So there we go, there's the extractor. All right, now we have the trigger set and the hammer. So now we have even more to get out. So we're going to start getting to work on this and start getting the rest of this out so we can start finishing up our detail strip on the firearm. So the next part we're going to do is we got to remove the screws. So every screw has its size, so we're going to make sure, we're just going to check our sizes, make sure they're right. Okay, so there we go. We start removing the screw. Like I said, be very careful, be very easy. You do not want to break these screws. They're very hard or next to impossible to replace. And yes, I could go on the websites and start ordering screws. I actually had one time a screw broke on this rifle, and I ended up having to get a screw for it, and it was hard for me to find one, but I managed to find one that fit and worked, but it was a hex. So I have to use a completely different system to get that particular one screw out. Okay, got that out. Okay, so we're gonna get this one here out. That one's in there really tight. And this is why you have gunsmith screwdrivers, specialized screwdrivers designed for this, because it would be very easy to break these screws. So that controls the lever right there. I'm probably going to leave that one in. Okay, so we're going to get this one here out. All right, we're getting closer. Yeah, that one does not want to come out. So what I have to do is I have to spray a little bit of WD-40. Sometimes the WD-40 helps. WD-40 is a good lubricant. It used for most everything. There we go. No, that does not want to come out.
Don't touch the front burner, it's very...
Okay, so we're going to probably skip this screw for right now. And the next screw we're going to pull out is this one right here. So we'll just go through. And I'm going to take it right out without a problem. I'm going to get my block here so we don't mess up the sights. There we go. And there we go, we got that out. Okay. Now that we got that out, now we're going to work on the next step. All right, so the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to actually take this, you're going to push this down, and you're going to gradually pull this out. It doesn't come out very easy, but just got to work it. it goes. There it goes. So we got that piece out. So it's got the trigger in there. And that needs to be cleaned up. So now we're getting into the guts of the firearm. So there we got the hammer. Okay. So surprisingly, this is about as far as I can go on this detail strip because of this particular screw broke 2 of my screwdrivers. And that's even the gunsmith screwdrivers. So it's in there really tight. I tried lubricating it. I tried different things to get it out. So I may have to take this to a specialist just to get that screw out, or I'm gonna try to lubricate it. And it's just cranked in there so tight. Sometimes when they factory put them in, they put them in tighter than they necessarily have to. So this is about as far as I can go on this particular rifle on the detail strip. But I did get pretty far. So now, I mean, I could pull this out, but I don't think I'm going to. There's no need to go any further in this case. So I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna clean up all the parts, I'm gonna clean everything up, and I'm gonna start reinserting everything and start putting everything back the way it was. All right, so since we're not able to go any further, we're gonna start reinserting parts back into the rifle and start putting it back together the way it was. So first things first, we gotta get the trigger. It's just like a puzzle. You just go exactly back the way you did and start reinserting and putting parts back in. So you just gotta take your time, just get the parts in there. That way you can start reinserting things and start putting things back the way it was. And apparently, and just stop. All right, so now to put the hammer in, it feels like it's supposed to go in from the underneath side, but it actually goes in from this side right here. And it feels like this is supposed to go in this side here. It does not. So you want to actually fit it in like a puzzle. You want to go right in, just like that. And then you want to just keep on working it. And eventually you'll be able to squeeze it right in, and then you're going to want the hammer and the trigger. You want the trigger to go back. You want it to go right about there. That way it will connect with the trigger. And then you're going to go and get the screw that you need, and you're going to want to work that all the way in. So that's going to have to go in. So that way you can go through and make sure you can put it together the way it needs to be put together. There we go. All right, so this is a part that's been giving me the most difficulty, is putting this screw back in, because you have to line up just right. And it's not an easy thing to get in, but I did get it in. So you gotta go through, you gotta put this back on, you gotta screw it back in. Both of my main screwdrivers are broken that I need for this, which really hurt me a lot because I don't think I can continue on with a busted screwdriver on here because oh well, actually I can, just not very well. So I'm gonna put that back in there. Gotta line up the threads, and then hopefully it will go right back in. And it's not wanting to go in very well. Okay. There it goes. So now we got it back in. So that's the trigger. So So now we got the next part we got to do. Now that we just finished that part. So the next part we have to do is we got to put the extractor and the rest of the part together. So now we have our block, our lever, our extractor, our spring, and a few other screws. And we're almost done here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get this lined up. So we're going to get this all cleaned up. And we're going to start inserting the rest of the parts. So we're going to get the spring. We'll put the spring in here. And this is not going to be the easiest thing to get in, but they do go in. So we're going to get it in. It's just not as easy as it looks, surprisingly. But once it gets in, it should be good to go. So we're going to start getting this inserted and start putting it in. All right, so I'm back here. So I had a tool. Now what I had to do is I had to put it inside here to push all the way through. I could not do this on camera because it was quite hard to do. They do have lighter level springs, your tension springs, and I had to actually push this down and wedge it all the way down until it went into the groove. You have to be very careful because you can scratch up your rifle. You could do some damage to your rifle. So I had to be very careful doing that. So that's the next step that we just got done doing to my rifle. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go through and we're going to start putting the block back into the rifle. So we're just going to go through. It's going to slide. First, we're going to go through and take the extractor we have right here. And we're going to put the extractor inside. All right, so the extractor goes in right about there. There we go. So now we got the extractor inside. So there's the extractor. It's all inside. And we got to go through. We got to push this block in. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the lever. And we're going to put the lever in right here. So that way we can start getting things back the way it was before. There we go. We just got to find the spot where this has to go in. There we go. There we go. Now we can start getting this back in. And once we have that lined up, then we can get the screw and put that back in and start screwing it back in. And there we go. And then one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do one final check on everything after we're all done here. There we go. So that we're going to put a dummy bullet in to make sure everything's working good. So now we have this one last part we got to put in. And we got to put the stock back on. Okay, just almost there. One thing is you never want to force all these things. You want to get them in and just have them fit right in where they're supposed to go. Because if you go through and start forcing things, you could actually damage or you could actually break your equipment if you're not careful. One thing I do need to do with this rifle is I need to get a specialized trigger for it, because this thing is the triggers that are on here are not the best. One thing is about these rifles, there's actually grooves cut into it, so if you try to put it in backwards like I just did a minute ago, it will not go in. That's why I say you never want to force it. Now you have one more screw to put in, and then we are all completely finished here. So we're going to go through and screw that screw in. And then I'm going to put a dummy bullet in. It is good to know how to do this, because if you have to do a thorough cleaning on your rifle, you'll be able to thoroughly clean your rifle and make sure it's all good to go. And I like to keep my guns lubricated, running good, and operating well. This is a good rifle. but it does have its problems. It does, the screws back out after heavy use. All right, so it is running good. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to check all the screws, make sure everything is nice and tight. Make sure nothing's backed out. It's just a good thing to go through and make sure everything's running good. That's my big rule of thumb. You never want to have screws that are having problems or they're backing out. I've had that happen before on this rifle. So let's go do a test. So right here I have a dummy bullet. So that's my dummy bullet. So I'm going to insert the dummy bullet into the round. To know it's a dummy bullet, you know the primer's spent. There's an X on the bullet. I made it myself, so I know for sure it's a dummy bullet. It also has different weight and feel. So I'm going to go through, insert the round. Okay, round's inserted, round's out. So that is a whole detail strip on this rifle. I could not go any further because of that one screw, because it was just too tightly packed. I may have to get some special lubricant to get it out. I may have to do some research so that way I can make sure I can get that screw up next time and make sure it's right and operating. But this is the whole detail strip of a Marlin lever action and reassemble of the Marlin lever action. There's some tricky parts into this, but once you learn how to do it, once you learn the mechanics, it becomes pretty easy. It's like putting a puzzle together over and over and over. Once you learn it, you could nearly do it with your eyes closed. It becomes that easy, but at first it feels like you're pulling your hair out trying to learn how to do it. So have a good day and have a good time, and keep on practicing, keep on shooting strong and learn how to shoot and become better at shooting. And before you know it, you will be very efficient on shooting, you'll be efficient with your firearms, and you'll be efficient on reassembling and assembling your firearms. It's a very important skill to have, an important skill to know how to do. If you do not know how to do it and have a specialist do it, specialists know what they're doing. Even I'm still learning. I've been handling firearms since I was 4 years old, and I'm still learning how to handle firearms. So have a good day and enjoy your time.